Welcome back. This is Morning News Today. I'm Gareth Edwards. The Institute for Justice and Reconciliation has released findings that now suggest that Africa's youth are positive about their future. The findings come despite the reality that a large number of young South Africans are unemployed. This morning, we would like to know from you what is giving the youth hope. It's part of our viewer question. We'll bring that to you later. And also, how does the emphasis on young people make the National Development Plan, or the NDP, compelling? Well, let's get some analysis now. I'm joined from our Cape Town studios by Mr. Hofmeyr from the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation. Mr. Hofmeyr, good morning to you. Thank you very much for your time in speaking to us this morning. I am going to ask Mr. Hofmeyr to just hold for me for a moment. I want to take you back and just give you an idea of where the story originated from. It wasn't too long ago when we were told that the youth in SA were despondent and had no bright plans for the future. This is the story we ran.
1 in 4 South Africans is out of a job, and 72% of the unemployed are under the age of 35.
It's not fair for me to work in a toilet or to sweep floors and all that because I finished my matric.
I've been sitting here for a year and 6 months, applying and still not getting a job.
The Democratic Alliance maintains the best solution for creating employment for the jobless youth is through a wage subsidy. Government has set aside 5 billion rand to subsidize companies who hire inexperienced workers under 35.
Every person can have a wage subsidy for 3 years because there's a lot of proof that once you've had a job and been in a job, it's much easier going into another job or going somewhere else because everybody's looking for what they call experience.
But Kasatu says such a policy will displace older workers and employers will exploit inexperienced workers by paying them too little. Famida Malay, eNews, Johannesburg.
Well, that's a particular story from the 15th of May last year. There you can see him on screen at the moment, Mr. Hofmeyr from the Institute of Justice and Reconciliation. Mr. Hofmeyr, good morning to you. Thank you very much for your time. Between May last year and today when you and I talk, what's changed? Why are the youth of South Africa suddenly more positive?
Good morning, Gareth. I don't think there's been a sudden change. I mean, these statistics are indeed frightening, and I think I can recite a few more that may give us all sleepless nights. But you know, statistics also have their limits. They do not measure sentiment. They don't measure emotion either. And indeed, I mean, these statistics can worry us. But I think what we have done over the past year or so is we've done a series of focus groups across the country, also to test South African sentiment towards their country and also their own future. And what one sees amongst adult South Africans is this sense of volatility, this narrative that they worry about the future of the youth. But when we've spoken to young South Africans themselves, what we found is that there is an impression, a view of themselves as being resilient, as being hopeful of their own future, and also being able to create their own future. And I think this is a very important commodity that a society like ours needs when we move forward, especially taking into consideration that about 2/3 of our population is younger than the age of 35.
When we talk about the term hope for the youth of South Africa, Mr. Hofmeyr, what are we talking about? Is it securing a job? Is it being happy with family life? What is it exactly that you're trying to narrow down to? What are you defining as hope for South Africa's youth?
I think for an older generation, we might dismiss these sentiments as the naivety of youth. But when one looks at real circumstances also, and some of the statistics shows that there has been a decline in youth poverty. There has also been a decline in youth hunger, and also a decrease in the number of young South Africans who have not had access to basic services like sanitation, water, and decent housing. So these developmental statistics are also at our disposal, which shows certain improvements in certain areas.
When it comes to the side of education as well, a lot of people talk about going into the workplace straight away, or perhaps going to university to be given a better job opportunity. Are people, young people anyway, finding that by going to get a formal qualification, their hopes, if I can use that term again, of finding a job and potentially a better life is improved?
Well, the question of education is critical. At present, we talk a lot about labour legislation and making access to the labour market easier. But before that, we really need to ensure that the public education system also improves its outputs. And what we've seen in the audit itself is that matric has become an absolute minimum qualification for somebody that wants to make a dent in the labour market, to get a first foot in the labour market and in the workplace itself.
And just as a final question to you, Mr. Hofmeyr, if I can, are you able to provide me with some numbers? What is the sample that you did? How many of those youth said that they are feeling hopeful? Give me an idea of the numbers that you're now working with.
Well, this has not been sort of a broad public survey. It has rather been a focus group exercise that we've done across the country. But it was a more or less about 35 focus groups that we've done all across South Africa in different provinces and also across different sort of historically defined racial groups and also class differences.
I understand the point. What I'm trying to get to, though, is of that, percentage-wise, if I could push you perhaps for that, how many of those that you did survey said they were happy with their prospects for the future? Was it overwhelming? Was it just over 50%? Mr. Hofmeyr, are you still able to hear me? I hope you can in our captain studio. My question to you was...
I can hear you now again.
My apologies for the loss in sound. My apologies. My question to you was, are you able to give me a percentage, perhaps, a finite number of those that you interviewed and those that you surveyed who say they're happy with their prospects?
Yeah. Just given the fact that this was not a public opinion survey but a focus group survey, we don't have percentages that we work with. We work with our cumulative findings of a focus group exercise.
Thank you for the clarity. My apologies again for the loss in audio. From our Cape Town studios, Mr. Jan Hofmeyr from the Institute of Justice and Reconciliation.